you have to know how to deal with every personality in order to get big. And what you can't do is always insist on being right. I'm not arguing with you. We're going to just discuss the issue. And the second thing to become personal, it becomes ugly. Because I don't want to argue with you as a person. If we have a conflict, we're going to discuss the situation. We're going to discuss the conflict at hand, the thing on the table. But it shouldn't be a personal thing. The second it becomes personal, it's a sign of immaturity, and I exit the conversation. What is up, everybody? Episode 17 underway in the Christmas season. That means that, 21, the 21st, 15th, the 22nd will be a Christmas episode. But today we're talking about something completely un-Christmas related, but very much holiday related, which is how to resolve conflict as a true leader, not as a rookie, immature, emotional, overly sensitive, normal human walking around planet Earth, because there are a lot of those. And conflict is inevitable, but true leaders handle it with responsibility, respect, care for the greater good, and just a higher level of awareness and sense of purpose. And since most of us are in business, it only makes sense that we address this topic. So today's episode has one goal, which is really just to teach all the listeners how to resolve conflict effectively and how to do that in minimizing harm and solving conflict in a way that fosters unity and protects the culture of whatever it is you're a part of or you're building, and also in a way that really works. And you know, I recently experienced several situations where conflict existed and was just handled really poorly. And it's unfortunate because if you look at how most relationships end, the majority of relationships end on what, if you really dig down deep into it, on what was probably a misunderstanding. Most relationships end over a lack of clarity and a lack of understanding and a lack of effective communication. And I've seen it over and over again. And if you think about relationships that have ended in your life, or maybe they didn't end in their entirety, but resentment gets created, and resentment is the beginning of the end of a relationship. So many good things are ruined over a lack of understanding, communication, and a lack of just emotional and leadership maturity and how to resolve conflict. So today we're going to talk about a couple of key things, but I want to start with the key principles of what I believe is conflict resolution. Conflicts are going to happen no matter what. They are always going to happen. But one of the things in tenacity that I've done my best to do is to create a culture where when there is conflict, everyone's on the same page for resolution. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. You know, we had our Wealth Bowl, our very first one. It's called T11. If you watch my social media, you'll probably see it all over the place. And we actually haven't started posting it yet. But at T11 this last week, there were several times where there was conflict, and it was handled very poorly almost every single time. And it's kind of what prompted this podcast. And some of those people watch this podcast, and so they probably think I'm talking about them. The reality is I'm probably not, because these were things that didn't really, I knew about them, and that was pretty much it. But I wrote down 4 key principles of conflict resolution. And I believe that these apply to life. Conflict resolution applies to life, not just business. Conflict resolution applies when you go to your Christmas in a couple days, 10 days or so from this episode, and you're sitting around the dinner table with family members who you don't like particularly, and you wouldn't spend. Isn't it interesting how there are people in your family who you will spend Christmas with, like probably arguably the most biggest holiday of the year? It's only with family that you spend holidays with people that you really don't like, but you do it over and over again every single year. It's very interesting because it's not things that we would do on a daily basis. But conflict resolution plays into every role. I want you to write this down if you're taking notes. True professionals and true leaders and people of value and people of character know how to resolve conflict without it blowing up. So I wrote down some key principles of what I believe are big parts of conflict resolution. Number one, when you have a challenge, just go directly to the person. That sounds rookie and it sounds amateur, but no one does that. I shouldn't say no one does that. The majority of people don't operate that way. When you have a conflict, address the person involved one-on-one. I mean, it talks about that in the Bible too, in Matthew chapter 18, that you start off by going directly to the individual. Whether you read the Bible or not, doesn't matter. It's just a basic principle of life. If I have an issue with you, the correct way of going about it is to go talk to you. Now, what most people do is the complete opposite. They go tell everybody else in their circle, everybody in their clique, about how this person is terrible and wronged them and whatever it may be. And they don't actually go to the person with the conflict. So, number one principle of resolving conflict is go directly to that person. It keeps the situation private. It keeps the situation small. It prevents embarrassment. And it creates trust. If you could say, you know what, hey, I got to chat with you real fast. And I don't go tell everybody else first. Here's the deal. If you go tell everybody else first, you are becoming a bigger problem than the problem, because you're spreading the problem. That does not foster trust. That fosters a lack of trust, and it creates just an issue for everybody else who wasn't part of the issue to begin with. Avoid group discussions about other people. Avoid group discussions about issues that you have with other people. If you could avoid those, what does it do? It creates a safe space for communication in your culture, a safe space for communication amongst the people in your culture. It's a very basic principle, but it's so important. So many problems start by a problem starting. By the way, like I said earlier, conflict is normal. It's okay if I'm offended by something. What's not okay is for me to go tell 5 other people I'm offended by it and then go talk to you possibly, but probably not likely right away. But then I go talk to you and then I think I'm the mature, problem solver because I went and talked to you about it. When the reality is I talk to everybody else about it first. You automatically lose your blessing when you don't do things correctly. Number 2, basic principle of conflict resolution, I believe, is to lead into the conversation with respect and clear intention. Go into the conflict with a goal of resolution, not a goal to win or boost your ego or to be right. Being right is not always the right thing to do. Being right oftentimes creates problems. I know people who they just have to be right. Every time they have to be right. No, but. And they cannot solve, I'm just gonna be honest with you, they cannot solve anything. I'm about to get fired up. We don't want to have to put what is it called? The explicit logo on our episode. Yeah, we would try to, I think we're on a roll of not having explicit logos. Yeah, at least a roll of one episode. But I know people that they're just morons. Honestly, they're just morons because their ego is so in the way, they don't know how to just shut the heck up and just resolve a problem. And I don't understand it because I would rather be rich than right. And when you're trying to build a company and you always have to be right, you're never going to get rich because you can't keep people if you can't resolve conflict. And so go into it with the goal of actually solving the problem, not being right. See, a lot of times when we approach a conversation, we approach it incorrectly. We approach it with something to prove versus with the greater good of trying to solve the problem, not being blame focused. Okay, focus on understanding and growth and peace over being correct. Number 3, key principle I wrote down: shut down gossip immediately. I want to challenge you to be a person who shuts down gossip immediately. Even when you hear it, it doesn't mean you're the one who does the gossiping. Even when I hear gossip, I shut it down. I want to challenge you to be a person who shuts down gossip right away. It's actually, I think you're probably a bigger problem if you're the one being gossiped to versus if you're the one doing the gossiping. I'll give you an example of this. I was having a conversation with someone who said, hey, so-and-so said blah, 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 blah about you. And I said, oh, interesting. What else did they say? Oh, they said blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, wow. Dang, that's how they really feel? What else did they say? Oh, they said da, 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 da. I said, oh, okay, cool. How did the conversation end? Oh, that was basically it. What was I asking? I want to know why they felt comfortable talking all this trash about me to you. What made them think that it's okay to say it to you? You want to know what it was? Probably the fact that you didn't say anything in return. Oh, I told them that. And I said, no. You know why people don't come to me and talk bad about you? They know better. They know better. Shut down gossip. If someone gossips about someone, I always go, hey, hold on a second. Before you continue, have you told them this directly? Have you spoke with them? Oh, no, because blah, blah, blah. I say, listen, if you're not going to talk to them, I don't want to hear about it. Well, it's just because if you talk to them, then I said, then what are you telling me for? You want sympathy? You want me to co-sign? I'm the last person who's going to co-sign on your BS. The last person. I don't co-sign on anyone's BS. I challenge it every single time. Hey, did you hear about blah, 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 blah? I challenge it every single time. I don't co-sign on it. You come over here running your mouth to me because you want sympathy. You want someone to agree with you. You want someone to co-sign on it. You just want attention. You want everything you want by you coming and gossiping to someone else. It's all the wrong intentions and the wrong goal. Because if you only had the one right goal, which is to solve the problem and resolve the conflict, you wouldn't be talking to anyone but the person you have a conflict with. If you talk to anybody else, by the way, it makes you look petty and it makes you look stupid. I have some of my best agents who come to me and they're like, yeah, so-and-so called me today. And they're like, rah, 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 rah. What is wrong with them? Why do they always have to do that? Why do they always have an issue? Now, I tell them, well, why don't you tell them that? But the point is, if you're talking about someone or a problem to anyone but the person who's the problem, you don't have the right intention and the right goal. And then the fourth key principle I wrote down is to protect relationships in order to avoid resentment. I believe that if you want to have long-term relationships, you have to get good at resolving conflict quickly in order to prevent resentment, misunderstandings, bigger problems, deeper issues. John Maxwell, in one of his books, I can't remember which one, but he said that unresolved conflict is slow dripping poison for a relationship. This is why things have to be resolved right away. You know, I had a conversation with someone yesterday and I said, hey, I just want to, since we're being open and honest, and I feel like this is a safe time to do that, I want to bring up something to you that's been bugging me for a little while. And it's not that you did anything wrong, but this is just what I'm thinking. And man, we had a great freaking conversation. But I led the conversation with the fact that I care about you. I care about our relationship. It means a lot to me, blah, 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 blah. Great conversation and put us in a really, really, really good place. I'm always conscious of when I get done with this conversation, are we going to be in a better or a worse position? And I'm always conscious of how I approach the conversation because I don't always approach everything correctly. But if I approach the conversation poorly, where I automatically put the other person on defense, where they feel like they have to defend themselves, there's no way that conversation ends good. It's always going to end bad. So let's talk about how do we handle conflict as a leader effectively. Number one, be prepared before you actually have the conversation. Reflect on how you're feeling, your emotions, your intentions, your goal. Make sure you're calm and solution focused. If you go into a conflict to resolve it, quote unquote, when you're pissed off, it's never going to go well. Okay. Know your desired outcome before going into these conversations. In tenacity, I have a 15-minute rule. Okay. And the 15-minute rule says that when you're upset about something, you got 15 minutes to decide whether or not you're going to address it. And if you choose not to address it, then your time to address it has passed. And what that does is that creates I'm going to address it or move on and forget about it culture. And the whole purpose of it is that if you choose not to address it, you're not allowed to harbor in it. You got to either address it or decide that I'm going to get over it and it's never going to be an issue again. Now, does everyone follow that? Unfortunately not. I hear people constantly, they whine and complain constantly. But the reality is that, prepare before you go have those conversations. Make sure your heart's in the right place. Communicate with clarity and care about the relationship. Communicate in a way that is constructive. Use statements like I, not you. For example, hey, I feel that this situation has caused some misunderstanding and I wanted to address it, directly with you so we could clear it up. I, not you this, you that, you always, you never. When we use accusatory blanket statements like you always, you never, you constantly, you guys, that puts everyone on defense. That's not a solution-based way of going about a conversation. That's never going to end good. And focus on the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, hey, this is a relationship that matters to me. This is a relationship that matters to the team, to our entire organization, the principles that we operate on, whatever it may be. Leaders resolve conflict in a way that makes relationships and culture stronger, not in a way that assigns blame. So many times we assign blame and we go into a conflict blaming someone. And in all honesty, none of us are ever innocent in anything. There's always something that we could do better. Even when I know that I'm not the problem and I did not create the problem, there is still a way for me to have handled something better, and I already know that. Now, the problem with gossip is that gossip takes small things and escalates them into big problems. And it damages trust. And trust is one of those things that's very hard to build and very easy to lose. And so gossip is cancer to your business. Okay, it's the worst. And the person spreading the gossip is almost worse than the person who created the problem to begin with. It's worse than the initial conflict. So as leaders, if you're trying to build an organization, you're an entrepreneur, or you're just a person who wants to have good relationships, become someone who people don't feel comfortable gossiping around. Okay, that's a big, big, big deal. I don't want to be someone that people feel comfortable gossiping around. Now, I'm very intentional. There are times when I say something on purpose, if I'm being honest, because I know if I say it to you, it'll get back to where I want it to get back to. That might not always be the best way to go about things, but I'm very intentional. I don't do anything by accident. I don't say anything by accident. Very rarely do I act out of impulse and not out of intention. But conflict resolution is powerful in an organization because it builds trust in direct communication. It strengthens relationships and helps the culture. And it allows you as a leader to set an example. So, actionable steps for conflict resolution. Number 1, go directly to the person. Number 2, prepare emotionally and mentally for the conversation. Okay, this is our summary. Number 3, use clear, respectful, constructive communication. Don't be a freaking jerk. Number 4, shut down gossip immediately. Shut down gossip immediately. And number 5, everything you do, do it with humility, be humble, focus on the greater good. True leadership is about resolving problems with integrity and care and concern for everybody involved. And here's what I want you to know. If you're a combative person, and because some of you are, some people are, they're combative. Some people, especially when they start drinking, they're extra combative. Like I know individuals that whenever they start drinking, they always have a problem. They always have an argument. They always have a debate. They always have something that they want to talk about. And it's extremely obnoxious, if I'm being honest. But you got to know you. You got to know your weaknesses. Know your triggers. Know your trigger points. Know the things that instantly get you heated. The things that instantly, cause you to get a little reckless. Because as a leader, you can't build a company, you can't build an organization from 0 to, let's say, 100 people, to 200 people, to 1,000 people without conflict, without problems along the way. Can you imagine trying to keep everyone happy all the time? It's impossible. It's not almost impossible. It is impossible. You cannot keep everyone happy, especially in a business model where people are competitive, and business people, entrepreneurs, they're self-driven. They have big egos. They want to win. They're an entrepreneur because they believe they're better than everybody else. They believe they're a badass. So you cannot build an organization without problems, because wherever there's people, there's going to be problems. So you have to know how to resolve conflict in order to get big. You have to know how to deal with every personality in order to get big. And what you can't do is always insist on being right. I'm not arguing with the person. We're going to discuss the topic. I'm not arguing with you. We're going to just discuss the issue. And the second things become personal, it becomes ugly. The second something becomes personal, I exit the conversation. I go, okay, you know what? This just became a personal thing. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. And I remove myself from the situation because I don't want to argue with you as a person. If we have a conflict, we're going to discuss the situation. We're going to discuss the conflict at hand, the thing on the table. But it shouldn't be a personal thing. The second it becomes personal, it's a sign of immaturity, and I exit the conversation. So if you want to get big, if you want to have great relationships in your life, you cannot maintain great relationships long-term without knowing how to resolve conflict. Like, I've got a guy on my team who's a good buddy of mine now, and his name's Dave. And one of the things I respect about Dave so much is when we're running appointments and stuff, these are friends that he's known since junior high and high school, 30 plus years, 35 years, 40 years. I'm like, dude, can you imagine? You don't have relationships for 40 years without conflict. So the ability, it shows so much strength and character. I learned so much about him instantly without him even having to tell me, just by the fact that he's maintained relationships for so long. If you're a giver and you care about people and you want to make an impact and an influence in people, and you're unselfish, and you know that you're a great person to be around and you could add value to people, then you need to learn how to resolve conflict. Because if you can resolve conflict, you can keep and maintain relationships long term. All right, you guys, we're done. Hopefully you take this episode and you apply it, okay? Because if you could keep people in your life, if you could keep people in your business, then you could achieve anything. But let's just say in a recruiting business, if I recruit 25 people and I lose 5 to 10 every single month, like if I'm constantly losing people, it's one thing to lose people because whatever, they fall out of business. It's another thing to lose people because you don't know how to deal with people. And I'm very forgiving and I'm very patient. And then it gets to a point where I go, okay, you know what? This is a character flaw and it's not going to change. You're out of here. But the reality is that I believe in people and I don't give up on people. And if we could resolve conflict, we can continue to grow. If we can't resolve conflict, then that relationship cannot continue to grow because we get stuck on stupid. And if we get stuck on stupid, we can't get anywhere else. And so conflict resolution and doing it right, doing it correctly is a big, big, big deal. Doing it correctly, okay? What does that mean as we end? I'll tell you what that means. If I see a problem and I got to fix the problem, but I want to fix the problem by involving as little amount of people as possible. If someone comes to me and goes, hey, so-and-so was talking smack about so-and-so. You know, they said that, for example, I'll use my producer, Jay, as an example. If Jay comes to me and he goes, man, Sam, he's such an idiot. I can't stand him. He pisses me off. I can't stand being around him. He's so annoying. He thinks he's funny, but he's so freaking annoying. I just don't like him. What I'm not going to do is go tell Sam, dude, Sam, just so you know, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to resolve it. But Jay said, you're an idiot. You're annoying. He can't stand you. He doesn't even want to be around you. He said, you think you're funny, but you're really just obnoxious. And like, it just irks him. And you're just so cringe. He just can't stand seeing your face. But don't worry. I got your back and I'm going to fix it. Like, that's not how you solve things. Because what does that do? All that does is hurt Sam. Because now Sam's sitting there self-conscious about himself going, gosh, man, what did I do? Why does he feel like that about me? And it hurts Sam for no reason. As a leader, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go, you know what, Jay, I need to discuss this with you. And I discuss it with Jay, and I fix it with Jay, and I never even tell Sam, because it's none of Sam's business what someone else thinks of him. And it also only hurts his feelings for him to find out what someone else thinks about him. And then now Sam's stuck in his head, and that's not fair to Sam. The right way to solve conflict is with the least amount of people involved. You solve it directly. You hit it right on the bullseye. You do it with good intentions. You do it right away. You do it respectfully. And you do it with a goal of solving the problem, not being right and not proving anyone wrong. And if you could do that, you become a person of value who everyone loves to be around. All right, you guys, we're done and we are out. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. See you soon.